All right, everybody, back from the trip. Looking to make an episode for you guys about the experience of climbing Mount Washington. So, as you know, we went up last year. There was 5 of us, 2 guides. Me and Steve, another one of our buddies, did not make it to the summit last year. Nathan, Tyrone, and Shane did. Last year, what tripped me up was the heights. I've got a fear that it's just a visceral response. It doesn't own me. It doesn't, but it caught me up last year. So this year, before I get to all the details, I visualize that constantly, getting up that part successfully, getting to the summit, raising my hands like you saw in the picture where my arm is up in the air. And it happened. So let me give you a breakdown because there's a lot of lessons in this, right? And it's a cool story. So we drive up Friday. There was 8 of us that were doing the climb this year. 2 guides, the same 2 guides. So me, Mikey, and Shane, Sugar Shane, are driving up. Brooks, Nathan, and Action Jackson. So Brooks is my older brother, driving up in another truck. And BK and Jake met us from out of town. Friday, you got nerves. We get up there probably around 4:30. We go to the same pizza place as last year, order some Sicilian pies, some regular pies, chill out and eat, get back to the hotel. Wasn't a lot of, me and BK, who's a really good friend. Thanks, Dan. We were, hanging, we were roommates, so we were hanging, talking life and whatnot. But there was, we didn't have any beers that night or anything. Everybody was just kind of the calm before the storm, right? We got to bed before 10 o'clock, I'd say. Did my nighttime routine and whatnot. And then you wake up, and before you know it, it's time to go. I woke up at 5 a.m. the day of, went out to the lobby, flicked the fireplace on. There's nobody out there. The guy's getting the hotel breakfast ready. Did my Bible reading, did my prayers, did my breathing, and then I did my visualization. Once again, another visualization about what we were going to achieve that day. So I go through that. We get to the shop, get suited up with our boots and crampons and whatnot. They check all our gear, make sure everything's good. We got about a 20 to 30 minute late start on the mountain. So we started climbing around 8 o'clock. Start going. So the first part of it is 1.7 miles up. Right, and you're switched back, and it's an incline, but it's nothing insane. So my brother Brooks, he has trouble. He had a deviated septum, so he has issues with his breathing. So that part was tough, and you're sweating and stuff. You get going, it's cold, but you're sweating. And he wasn't getting a good feeling from that point on. But I stayed back with him and another guide, and he was grateful that I did that because I knew that he would. That's what he actually wanted. I kept saying, let's just make it to the next part. Make it to the next part. You're not giving up yet. Not yet. And it wasn't giving up. It was just like last year at my heights. The breathing was getting to him. So we get in probably about an hour and a half. We get to the next part, the steep part. Me and Brooks and the other guide come up. And Brendan, one of the guides, says, you were the one last year, right, that got really tripped up in this part, right? So yeah, he goes, all right, you're right behind me. So it was him and then me going up the steep part. I had visualized this over and over and over. I listened to everything he was saying. He was coaching me up. I'm listening, and I'm doing exactly what he's saying. I'm looking right straight ahead. I'm not looking at the cliffs off to the side. I'm looking straight ahead. We're going up, up, up. We got to the part where there's the ice part, where you might see some pictures of that, which is the most technical part of the climb. You got to use your axe pick and your crampons and grab this root, grab this. And again, I just listened to exactly what he was saying, got through that, and then finished going up the steeps. And I got to say, I crushed that part. And it was all because of the visualization and the support that I had from the guys I was with and the great coaching that we were getting. So always be coachable. Remember that. Always be coachable. And all the guys at that point, Brooks was right behind me at this point, which was very fitting. So my older brother, and he kept saying, you're doing okay, you're doing okay. And I said, am I looking okay? Yeah, you're doing okay. So I knew that I would just have to hear positive words and focus right where I was to get up that part. All the guys were super encouraging, and I'll kind of touch on all of them. They all had my brother-in-law Nathan was saying some kind words right there. It was just little words that helped me, that meant a ton. So we all get through that part, Brooks included, because that part wasn't really about the conditioning, or the breathing, I should say. We get up past the tree line, which I made it to last year, but I was shot mentally at that point. And Brooks's quads are killing him, cramping up pretty bad. And we still have another 2.5 hours to go up, and then you got to get down. It's supposed to have a 4-to-1 ratio of guide to client. Of client to guide. So the one guide says, listen, you're not going to be able to do it, Brooks, because you're not going to be able to get down, even if you were able to get up there. How are we going to get you down if your quads are already locking? Like, everybody's starting to cramp, right, but nothing insane. But his quads, I could tell, were bothering him bad through the breathing, so it's something me and him are going to work on. So he said, all right, you could wait at the tree line, which is something they never do, but we had a beautiful day. It was really just a beautiful day considering where you're at. Could not have, God was looking down upon us. You could not have had a better day. Sun was out, wind was not terrible at all. Yeah, it was cold, but you don't feel that when you're moving like that. Think about this, guys. You probably in that day are ripping through 10 to 12,000 calories. Which I'll tell you about the dinner at the end of this that I had that night. So I said, all right, Brooks is going to wait here. Make sure he's all bundled up. We'll go up to Lion's Head, which is another 20, 30 minutes, and then we'll make the call. Who's got to go back with them? Because he's got to go back with the guide at that point. Which means the guide has to leave, which means some of us have to leave. So again, I'm right behind Brendan, going up, one of the guides, the next part. Staying right on his tail. He said, you stay with me, we'll make sure we make the summit. So when we broke, it was cool, because last year I didn't use my phone at all. I was nervous with my hands and whatnot, but my system worked with my hands. My hands were fine. But I did FaceTime with Devin and the kids at this spot. Really nice overlook. Probably 4,000 feet up at that point, 4,500 feet up. And I said, all right, we decided since it's such nice weather, we can do a 6-to-1 ratio. But that means one person has to come back with one of us and Brooks. And he goes, well, I'm going to give you my input. I think it should be Kyle. And I looked at him. I said, fine, whatever you guys want me to do. I had done the main thing I wanted to do was get through that steep part and know that it didn't own me and that I could do it calmly and confidently, which I did. And then some of my buddies started saying, now he's not going back. Why would he go back? He's the reason we're here. Mikey and Brandon and, Tyrone, Action Jackson, who set up the trip. He was kind of the leader of the expedition. He did this. This is his third time doing it. He's eventually going to climb Mount Everest. He says, I organized the trip. It's my call. I'm going back with Brooks. He goes, I want you and Shane to make it up there together. So Shane made it up there last year. Really great leadership by Action Jackson, Tyrone. And I don't know why the guy thought I was holding people up. The only reason I was behind was I was supporting my brother Brooks at the beginning. But my conditioning was feeling really good. Felt solid. Legs felt good. And then you just keep going. So I didn't realize how much further those guys went than us last year, me and Steve. You just keep going. And they didn't have that much snow this year. So you're going over rocks and boulders with these crampons, these spikes on. And you just keep going. And then you see another, it's really steep, almost like it's a steep set of stairs. So you're not using your hands necessarily. They're there to catch you. Obviously, you got your pick. And you see Tuckerman's Ravine, which is a couple thousand feet down, right over there to your left. And I'm trying not to look at that. And you just keep going and going. And people look like ants way off in the distance when you're looking up at them. And now you're starting to fatigue. You're starting to burn. You're starting to get a little nauseous at that point. Legs are on fire. My left hamstring and left quad were cramping up. And then, boom, it switched to my right leg. And at that point, guys, I'm just looking straight ahead at, I can't even think, I think BK. I think Brandon was in front of me at that point, or he was right behind me. We stayed together a lot throughout it. And I knew, so we have very similar mindsets. And I would look at him, he would look at me. I knew he was struggling, he knew I was struggling, and it was just good to share that struggle with somebody. Mikey Cortez, who crushed it. Every time, all he had was positive words. He was always smiling, laughing, just a calming presence. Jake, who works with Sugar Shane, he came down from Maine. He was just calm, cool, and collected. Like I said, Nathan was given kind words of encouragement. Shane was given, kind words. Shane was pushing me, and we're almost there. We almost got it. So everybody, I think we all served a purpose to each other. But as we're going up that steep part, and now mind you, in my mind, I'm like, man, we have to get all the way back down. Once we get there, we're not even there yet. But I just kept looking at the heels in front of me, and I would pick a target like 2-3 steps. Boom, boom, get to that. Because you are on, it's hard to explain. I would look at that. I was praying constantly throughout the day, as far as just asking for God to bless us and help us to be safe and to do what we set out to do and just give us grace. So I'm doing that, and I'm reframing. I'm looking straight ahead. And BK had shared a story that him and his daughter used to use with the horse in the forest, and they can't see anything. And the horse says to the boy says, I can't see, I can't go anywhere. He says, well, can you see your feet? The boy says, yeah. And he says, well, just look at them and take one step. And that's literally what we were doing. So it's a lot of reframing in my head, a lot of picking small targets, sometimes just one step. And just realizing that I had the conditioning and that my body was not going to fail me. So I'm using every tool I had, spiritually, mentally, physically. And then we're getting there. You crest over the top of that part, and then you still got some more to go. And it's another 20 minutes or something, but you're almost there, and you're just so high up at that point. You're like, at that point, you're probably close to the 6,000 foot mark, and we cross over, and I see the road. I see where the summit is, because I've driven up there twice with my family, which was terrifying for me at that time. Get up there, and I actually started tearing up at that point because it was such an emotional thing for me. I think it was for everybody too. And you're welcome, Mike. It was, you're looking at it and you're putting yourself to the test. There were so many times I think we all wanted to give up. Like Brandon BK had this huge cyst on his ankle, so every step is in agony. And then we get to the top. And Devin had made fudge for the first time, homemade fudge. So we did it fasted all the way up, right? Broke that out, gave BK some. We all had a piece, and it brought him back to life from what he was dealing with, which was really cool. So we get up there, and there's Action Jackson right there, the leader. The great leadership that Action showed, which I mentioned earlier, was awesome. But we're now up there pretty late. It was like 1:30 or 2. Normally they want you to get up there by 1. So, probably wound up hanging out there 20 minutes. We had to let BK get his foot situated, which was risky because up there is where you got to win. So he knew if he had to take his boots off, he had to take his gloves off, and that gets risky. Shane and Mikey's hands at that point were starting to give them issues. Because when you combine how cold it is with the wind up there, the rest of the mountain wasn't that windy that day on Saturday. But at the top, it's a different thing, even though it wasn't as wind. It was like average winds were like 42 miles an hour. I think the highest was like 70 for the day. We get our picture, which you see Brandon holding one of the Newell Strength shirts and like a flag, and that was as far as he could make it. Like he was in so much pain, and the flag, it's the shirt just blowing in the wind. But we did the picture, and now back down. So down we go. I don't know, that took us 2-3 hours. We got delayed on the way up because at that one steep part we got stuck on the way up. I didn't mention this, behind this Boy Scout troop for like a half hour. And when you're resting and you're waiting, when you're waiting like that on this, you're still fatiguing because you're standing in ice and snow. There's nowhere, you're just on a slope of a mountain, and you still got to be engaged with what's going on. You have to be alert. So that happened on the way up, and on the way down, we got stuck behind a group that didn't have a guide, didn't have a rope, because on the way down we use a rope, and you can see in some of the pictures how steep that really is. And at one point, got some good bruising here and a cut here. I'm lassoed into the rope before we get to the steepest part with the ice, and I misstepped and I fell, and I'm holding on to the rope, and it's wrapped. It's got my arm pinned. And I said, guys, I'm falling. I'm holding it one arm, and I got my composure very quickly. I know I could flip over because now I'm hanging there on the rope. Get your wrist out, because I thought it was, it was really cutting into my arm pretty bad, even though I had 2 layers on. Did that, ice pick, regot my footing, kept going. We didn't get off of the trail until 6. It was already dark. So it was already dark. By the time we get down, so it was a 10-hour ordeal. We're supposed to be back by like 3:30, just putting in perspective. So, incredible event. Now, I know when Tyrone went down with Brooks, which I'm going to try to organize an episode where I can interview all of them. When they were going down, so Action Jackson had an injury to his pec tear earlier in the week, and he still was saying, I'm going. He's going. He fell at one point in the steep part coming down, apparently. And what they told us that day, which I don't recall last year, but if you fall, if a guy in front of you falls, the guy above you, just push him into the wall, push him into the snow. The snow will stop him. He ain't just going to keep tumbling down. So apparently Tyrone fell like 10 feet tumbling down, and Brooks pushed him into the wall. But I know he banged up his pec and shoulder and arm even more with that. So it was grueling. It was a struggle, and it was great. I wouldn't change it for the world. Me and Brandon were talking that night. We were already transformed into better people just from doing that. It was such a spiritual quest, like a vision quest, and to do it and to complete it. And you had the leadership of Tyrone. You had everybody working together. You had all this stuff. It was just a perfect synchronicity of guys, the group of guys, the group we had, and the guides, and just the memories. And that night we get back to the hotel probably about 7:30. Everything there in the off season, when it's not the tourist season, closes around 9. So we decided we're gonna get burgers at the same place as last year. So we hit the hot tub, had some beers. That was, right after that is when I made the video I put up Saturday night. And we go to order, and I know how much Brandon can eat, and I think you guys know how much I can eat. So we spent, me and him, $106, not including the tip, on burgers and fries. So I think we got like, I don't know, 8 or 9 burgers, big burgers too. Probably did 6 or 7 beers that night. We were celebrating, and you got to remember how much we burned through that day, right? Essentially fasted. Yeah, we had a little bit of fudge at the top, but that was more just to lift the spirits than anything. So I would say that meal I probably took in that night, because I kept eating when I got back to the room. 6,000 to 7,000 calories, no problem. And that's where you got to listen to your appetite and know what your body needs. I could have kept eating, but as far as recovery, that was good for the night. Legs are still really sore. I was using Coach Nikki's compression leggings before. Did meditation for some recovery. But banged up for sure. Arm is a little banged up. Mentally feel great. I was watching 14 Peaks last night. But if you ever get the chance to do something in your life that is going to push you to the maximum capacity of all 3 triangles, mentally, physically, and spiritually, do it. Because you're going to come out as a better person. You are going to grow. You're going to transform. Right? You're going to metamorph into something better than you started that day. When you're up there on that mountain, for our example, you realize how small you are. You realize how big God's creation is, and that you are just a small part of it, and God is within you as well. And it was just an awesome thing. And like I said, I'm going to get Action Jackson right there. I'm going to get him on. I want to try to organize the group and do a group interview for one of the shows. And again, what great leadership by him, to want the guys that have never made it to make it, and to sacrifice going down. And Tyrone's going to do Rainier next, which is like 14,000 feet, then like a 20,000 foot, and then he's going to go for Everest. That's his goal. So God bless him. I mean, it's just crazy to think what we did, and then he's going to go do Everest is 5 times higher than that. But whenever you get a chance to challenge yourself and do something, do not shy away from it. Make sure you're prepared, but know that even all the preparation you do is going to be put to the test. That's how you grow. When all the preparation you did, you know that you're going to leave no stone unturned. And you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. And you're either going to master your mind or you're not. You know, the Spirit was with us. We were all in the physical shape we needed to. It was the mind that was going to make or break us. So that's what I got for you today, guys. It was a great trip. There's a lot of pictures. We got Action Jackson and Mikey both had GoPros, so we'll be getting some video out there with that. Just a surreal experience, and it's good to be home yesterday. Like I said, very sore today, but I'll recover just as all the other guys will. And definitely one of the highlights of my life, I can say that, was climbing and making it to the top of Mount Washington. All right, guys, you guys have a great day. Time for me to go coach some people. Later.